Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, 7 lines from the bottom. The Gemara is discussing Maleches Kesiva writing, and the Mishnah taught us that a person who writes 2 letters on Shabbos, he's Chayev Chatos. The Gemara now quotes the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that says if he intends to write 1 word, and instead he writes only part of that word, but that word that he writes can be then miskayim b'mokom acher, he's going to be chayiv. For example, he intends to write the name Shimon, and instead of writing the entire name Shimon, he writes Shin Mem. Since Shin Mem is also a name, Shem, and therefore he will be chayiv chatos, says Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, El Rabbi Yehuda shtei oisyois vehein shtei shemos hud mechayiv. The Gemara is medayek that which Rabbi Yehuda says, it will be 2 letters from 2 different types of letters that he will be chayev for. Shtei oisios vehein shem echod loy mechayev. But if it's 2 letters that are the same letter, he would not be chayev. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda says specifically in the case of Shem Mishimon, or God mi Gadiel, Noyach mi Nochor, Don mi Daniel. So these are 2 different letters. But if it was the same letter, then he would not be chayiv. Ask the Gemara v'hatanya. Now the Gemara brings a brisa, and it's a lengthy brisa. In the middle of the brisa, the Gemara is bringing its question on Rabbi Yehuda as follows. First of all, it quotes a pasuk, and I want to quote the entire pasuk. Daber al bnei Yisrael leimor. Now the pasuk is talking about where a person is oiver an iser deraisa b'shoigeg, and he's chayiv a korban chatos. So the pasuk says, Nefesh ki secheto b'shgaga mikol achas mikol mitzvahs Hashem asher lo ta'aseno. A person who does a transgression b'shogeg of one of the mitzvahs that are not to be done. Ve'osa me'achas mehenan, he does one of them. So the Gemara now quotes, the Brisa quotes this pasuk, ve'osa achas, and he does one. Yochol, I might think, says the Brisa, ad sheyichtav kol Hashem, he must write the entire name, meaning the entire word. Va'ad sheyaro kol habeged, I might think he has to then weave the entire garment. Va'ad sheyase kol ha-napa, until he then weaves the entire sieve, because the pasuk says achas, he will do one of these transgressions. Talmud loymer me'achas. That's why the pasuk actually says ve'osa me'achas, not like the Brisa quoted ve'osa achas. It says me'achas, from part of the one. If so, then I might think you don't have to write 1 letter. He only has to weave 1 chut. He only has to make 1 ring to fasten the reeds that he's making a sieve for. Talmud loymar, we're on the top of Kuf Gimel Amud Beis. Talmud loymar achas. That's why the pasuk says achas. It says me achas, and we learn also achas. Haketzad. How do we rectify if he's intending to then write, let's say, a full word? Yet it says he'll be chayiv for only part of that word. So is it part, or is it the entire thing that he intends? Haketzad. The Brisa explains, Eino chayiv ad sheyichtav shem katon mishem gimel. He will not be chayiv until he writes a small word from a bigger word. Shem mishimin umishmuel, noyach minochor, don midaniel, god migadiel. So all of these have the 2 letters that form another name, even though he intends to write the bigger name. That's the opinion of the Tanna Kama. Now the Brisa continues, and that's where the Gemara asks its question from. Rabbi Yehuda oimer afilu lo kosav ela shtei oisios vehein shem echod chayev. Rabbi Yehuda says not only is he going to be then writing a word with 2 letters, but even if it's going to be the same letter, he's going to be chayev. Kigon sos or sheish, tos, roar, gag, choch. For example, the word sheish or sos has also other words in Tanakh that say sheshomem, like it says in Eicho, which also has shin shin. Or another word, it says shashbatzar, which is also found in Ezra, or the word tos, giving, which is found in Sefer Bereshit as tisra'u, you shall be afraid. So these are words that he intends to write a larger word, but the smaller word contains two letters that can be then be a complete word. So Rabbi Yehuda is quoted over here in the Brisa as saying the same letter that provides a word is also going to mechayev. The Gemara, before it gets into this reconciliation of this kasha, continues the Brisa and explains. Omar Rabbi Yosi, there's another shita of Rabbi Yosi v'chi mishum kosev hu chayev v'halo eino chayev ela mishum roishim. Is he chayev for writing? Says Rabbi Yosi, he's only chayev for marking. That means he doesn't even have to write letters. Shekein roishmin al kasha mishkan leida ezehu ben zugoy. Because Rabbi Yosi says, indeed, when they would take down the mishkan, the planks, they would put markings to then know where each plank belonged to. They would put a mark on one end of one plank and a mark on the other end of another plank to know which one matches the other one. So therefore, even a line, for example, would be sufficient, says Rabbi Yosi. You don't have to write a caricature of a letter. The Brisa now brings another shita, a fourth shita, Rabbi Shimon Oimer, ve'osa achas, and the pasuk says that we quoted before, and he will do one transgression. Yochalam, I think, Ashi Yichtav is Kol Hashem, until he then writes the entire word. Ashi Yaro Koga Beged, until he will weave the entire Beged. Ashi Yisa Asa es Kol Napo, until he will then make the entire sieve. Talmud Lomar Mei Achas. That's why the pasuk is Mei Achas. I Mei Achas. If it says Mei Achas, then Yocham, I think, Afilu Lo Kosav Elo Ois Achas. It's enough just to write one word. Va'afilu orag elo chut echod, or only to then weave one string. Va'afilu osa elo bayis echad benapa, or only to do one ring of the napa. Talmud loymar achas. Therefore it says achas. Haketzad. How does this play out? If indeed he intends to do one thing, and he only does part of it, how can we reconcile the two things? When it says achas or me achas, eino chayv ad sheiseh melocha keshekiyotze ba miskayemes. Now this seems to be exactly identical to the Tanna Kama's opinion. The Gemara will then discuss this. But the Brisa continues and explains Rabbi Yosi Oimer ve'osa achas on this latter part of the pasuk that it says that he will do one, he will perform one chet b'shoigeg. So we have the words ve'osa achas, and it says ve'osa heina. It says osa achas ve'osa heina. The words heina are superfluous in the pasuk, and it says it could have just said osa achas. So Rabbi Yosi explains the following: Pa'amim shechayev achas al kulon. Sometimes a person will be chayev one for many. Sometimes he'll be chayev for each and every transgression. In other words, sometimes he'll be chayev once for many transgressions. That means if it's Shigas Shabbos, even though he does many malachas, he'll be chayev one chatos. Or sometimes he will be chayev for each and every malacha when Shigas malachas. He knows that it's Shabbos, but he doesn't know each and every malacha when he does it behelam echad. Now the Gemara goes back to the question that we had asked, because we said, quoting the Mishnah, that Rabbi Yehuda says that when you make a name that is going to be two letters that are two different letters, then so long as it's going to be miskayim and mokam acher, even though you intended to write a larger name, a larger word, you're going to be chayiv. Yet in the Brisa, it says that Rabbi Yehuda holds that even if it's going to be the same letter twice, that's enough to mechayev him, like taf taf or shin shin. So the Gemara asks, Ketani miha, Rabbi Yehuda oimer afilu lo kosav ela shtei oisiyos v'hein shem echad chayev. So in this brisa, he says even if you write two letters that are going to be the same letter, he's going to be chayev. Answers the Gemara, lo kashya, it's not a difficulty. Hodi de hod rabbe. That which we quoted in the Mishnah is his own shita that he's only going to be chayiv is going to be two different oisiyos, two different letters. Whereas in the Brisa, which says it can be even the same letter, Shin Shin or Tov Tov, that is his Rebbe, as follows. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Mishum Rabban Gamliel, Afilu loy kosav ela beis oisyois, vehein shem echod chayiv. Rabban Gamliel, his Rebbe, says, even if you only write the same letter, 2 letters of the same letter, you'll be chayiv. Kigon, Shin Shin, Tov Tov, Reish Reish, Gimel Gimel, Ches Ches. Now the Gemara goes to another part of the Brisa that's just problematic. We've quoted the 4th Shita in the Brisa as Rabbi Shimon, and it says seemingly the same exact Shita as the Tanakama. Ask the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Hainu Tanakama? It's identical to the Tanakama. V'chitem, if you'll tell me the difference is Aleph Aleph da Azercha Ika Benayu. If you write Aleph Aleph in the word Azercha, the Tanakama Sover Aleph Aleph da Azercha lo mechayiv. Rabbi Shimon Sover Kivin de Isei Bigalatore Baal mechayiv. Then you'll tell me the machlokis is that the Tanakama says Aleph Aleph da Azercha is not going to then be chayiv, but Rabbi Shimon would say it would be chayiv because Aleph Aleph can be found when you write amulets. So then the Gemara says, Lemem Rabbi Shimon l'chumra, that would come out that Rabbi Shimon would be l'chumra. That would say that more of a machmir opinion than the Tanakama. And that can't be because of the following brisa, V'hatanyo. HaKodei HaKoshehu chayiv. One who says the Tanakama drills and he doesn't go through the entire wood. He doesn't go make the entire hole. He's going to be chayiv. Hamegarer koshu, if a person will then scrape, which is going to be a form of mimareach, of smoothing out, koshu is going to be chayiv. Hama'abed koshu, if a person is going to this lavdafka ma'abed, he's going to tan lavdafka a koshu, but he'll be ma'abed, a shear that can then tan leather that will then cover an amulet. Hatzar bekli tzura koshu, if he were then to engrave a tzura of a koshu, all of these things, according to the Tanakam, would be chayiv even for the small amount. Rabbi Shimon Omer ashi yikdach es kulo, he's definitely more makil. He says you have to make a hole in the entire wood, go through the entire wood to make the hole to be chayiv. Ashi yigra es kulo, until you then sand down, scrape off the entire thing, the entire pole. Ashi yabed es kulo, until you then tan the entire leather. Ashi yotzur kuloi, until you will engrave the entire engravement. So we see that Rabbi Shimon definitely is more makil. So you cannot say that the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Shimon is that Rabbi Shimon will say Aleph Aleph da Zerecha is going to be chayiv, because that would come out that he's more machmir. El Rabbi Shimon ha also la'ashma'inon ash yichtav es Hashem kuloi. Rather, Rabbi Shimon comes to say that what you're going to be chayiv for is only if you then would write a word that would be sufficient. Until you will write the entire word. Ask the Gemara, that can't be. That's not what it says in the Brisa. Can you say this? V'atani, the Brisa that quotes Rabbi Shimon's opinion, says as follows. Rabbi Shimon Omer, V'osa achas. Yochel, I might think Ashi is Hashem Kula. I might think you have to write the entire intended word. Talmud Omer me achas. Ketzad, the Gemara explains. Talmud Omer me achas. So you see only part of that. So obviously it doesn't mean the entire word, because he says me'achas, only part of the word. No, treats ve'imahach. You have to explain what he meant to say as follows. Yochol, I might think, ad sheyichtov es haposuk kuloi. I might think achas means the entire posuk that he intends to write. That's going to then be mechayiv. Talmud me'achas. Therefore, me'achas teaches me only one word of that posuk. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon indeed is the more makil opinion, and it's not exactly like the Tanakama at all, because he's saying one word of an entire posuk, but certainly not a part of that posuk, part of that word. Rabbi Yosi Omer, the Gemara now brings the sheet of Rabbi Yosi from the Brisa. Rabbi Yosi Omer v'osa achas v'osa heina. The posuk says v'osa achas me'achas meheina. So the word mehena is completely superfluous. They could just say v'osa achas. Therefore, the mem of me'achas is also superfluous. So Rabbi Yossi says as follows: Pa'amim shechayiv achas al kulon. Sometimes the person will be chayiv one for all of them. Upamin shechayev al kol achas v'achas. Sometimes he'll be chayev for each and every one. Omar Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Chanina, my time with Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Chanina explains the reasoning Rabbi Yosi. Achas me achas. It says achas. It could have just said achas. Instead it says me achas. It says heina, which we said is completely superfluous, and it also says me heina, adding the mem. Achas shehi heina, to teach me achas, which is heina, which is many. And heina veheina shehi achas, and many, that is one. Explains as follows: achas Shimon, me achas Shimon. Achas, when he intended to write the entire name Shimon, and he writes shin mem, which is part, which is me achas. Heina is avois. Me heina, from them, is the toldus of the avois. Achas shehi heina. Now we're darshaning the achas and the heina. Zoda in Shabbat v'shigam malachas. How can you have a situation where you're going to be chayiv for all of the malachos that are going to be many, one that's going to be many, even though you transgress Shabbat, you're going to be chayiv for each and every malacha, because it's going to be a case where you know that it's Shabbat, you don't know the malachas that you're doing, and it's all behelam echad. Heina shi achas. If it's many, that's going to be one. When is that? Shiga Sham v'zodan malachos. When indeed you don't know that it's Shabbos, although you do know the malachas that you're doing. So therefore, even though he does many different malachos, he's going to be chayiv only one chatos because of the transgression of not knowing that it is Shabbos.